I'm fine now, Squirrelpaw insisted. It wasn't anything to make a fuss about. She glanced around in relief as Cinderpelt appeared from the mouth of her den. Her smoky grey fur was ruffled, and she carried a leaf-wrapped packet in her jaws. Fresh kill, I see, she meowed, setting the packet down. Squirrelpaw, that's a splendid rabbit. Thank you. Squirrelpaw gave her shoulder a quick flick, her eyes glowing at the medicine cat's praise, but she still avoided her sister's gaze. Cinderpelt picked up the packet again and padded unevenly across the clearing to set it down in front of Leafpaw. Many seasons ago, when she was Firestar's apprentice, she had injured her hind leg in an accident on the Thunder Path. She had been unable to finish her warrior training, but while recovering in the care of Yellowfang, the ThunderClan medicine cat, she had found a new path to follow in the service of her clan. Leafpaw, take that to Dappletail, please, she meowed. It's poppy seed to help her sleep, because her teeth are aching so badly. Mind you tell her to go easy on it. Yes, Cinderpelt. Leafpaw picked up the packet and hurried out of the clearing, casting one last glance at her sister as she went. There was still no chance to ask Squirrelpaw any more questions, and her sister was refusing to look at her. Leafpaw felt every hair in her pelt prickle with foreboding as she wondered what could have happened to open up this gulf between them. Water! Help! Water everywhere! Swim! Brambleclaw yelled, then choked as a sharp, salty wave filled his mouth, dragging at his fur and pulling him under. His paws worked frantically as he struggled to keep his head above the surface. He stretched up his neck, straining to find the line of reeds he expected to mark the opposite bank, but all he could see were endless, heaving, blue-green waves. On the horizon he caught a glimpse of the sun sinking into the waves in a pool of flame, its dying rays tracing a path of blood that stretched towards him. Then his head went under again, and the cold salt flooded into his mouth again. I'm drowning, he wailed silently as he fought for his life. StarClan, help me! His head broke the surface, and a strong current spun him around, with his black legs dangling helplessly beneath him. Choking and gasping for air, he found himself gazing up at a sheer wall of smooth, sand-coloured rock. Had he been swept into the gorge? No, these cliffs were higher still. At their base, the waves sucked at a dark hole, edged by jaggy rocks, that made it look like a gaping mouth with teeth. Brambleclaw's terror increased as he realized that the swirling water was carrying him straight towards the stony jaws. No! No! He yelled. Help me! He kicked and thrashed in a panic, but he was growing weaker, and his sodden fur was dragging him down. The waves drove him onwards, crashing against the rocks. Now the black mouth loomed over him, spitting salty foam, as if it were about to swallow him alive. Then his eyes flew open, and there were leaves around him, not sheer cliffs, and he was supported by a moss-cushioned sand rather than sinking in bottomless water. Brambleclaw lay shuddering with relief as he realized that he was lying in his nest in the warrior's den. The thunder of waves had become a rushing of wind in the branches above his head. Water had dripped down through the thick canopy of leaves and formed an icy trickle in his neck fur, and he knew the rain must have come at last. His throat was as sore as if he had swallowed a riverful of salty water, and his mouth was parched. Brambleclaw sat up restlessly. Duffpaw lifted his head and muttered, "What's wrong with you? Can't you keep quiet and let the rest of us sleep?" "Sorry," Brambleclaw meowed. He began grooming the moss out of his fur, his heart still thumping as if it were going to break out of his chest. He felt limp and exhausted, as if he really had been struggling to save himself in that strange salt water. Gradually, the strengthening of the light in his den told him that the sun had come out. He heaved himself to his paws and poked his head out between the branches, blinking as he looked for a puddle where he could quench his thirst. A fresh breeze was driving the clouds away. In front of Brambleclaw, the clearing was filled with a pale yellow light from the rising sun, reflecting from puddles on the ground and water droplets hanging on every branch and frond of fern. The whole forest seemed to be drinking in the life-giving water, the trees lifting their dusty leaves to catch each sparkling drop. "Thanks, StarClan," Mouse Fur meowed as she pushed her way out of the den beside Brambleclaw. "I'd almost forgotten what rain smells like." Brambleclaw staggered across the clearing to a puddle near the base of the high rock, where he lowered his head and lapped, trying to wash the taste of salt from his mouth. He had never imagined that water could taste like that. Like the other cats, he would sometimes lick salt from the surface of rocks, or taste it in the blood of prey, but the memory of drinking that salt-laden water made every hair on his pelt prickle. A final gust of rain ruffled the pools of water and rinsed that sticky feeling of salt from Brambleclaw's fur. Raising his head to enjoy the sharp, cold shower, he spotted Firestar emerging from his den under the high rock, and turning to speak with the cat who followed him out. Brambleclaw was surprised to see that the second cat was Ravenpaw. "Two Legs are always doing things," Firestar was saying as they came into earshot. "I'm grateful that you came all this way to tell us, but I really don't think it's got anything to do with us." Ravenpaw looked uneasy. "I know Two Legs often act without reason, but I've never seen anything like this. There are far more of them on the Thunderpath than before, walking along the edge with shiny, bright-coloured pelts, and they have new kinds of monsters, huge ones." "Yes, Ravenpaw, so you said." Firestar sounded fatally impatient with his old friend. "But we haven't seen any of them in our territory. I'll tell you what." He paused to press his muzzle affectionately against Ravenpaw's side. "I'll tell the patrols to keep their eyes open for anything unusual." Ravenpaw twitched the fur on his shoulders. "I suppose that's all you can do." And you could drop in on Winkline on your way home," Firestar suggested. "They're closer than we are to that part of the Thunderpath, so Tallstar ought to know if something strange is going on." "Yes, Firestar, I'll do that." "Wait a moment, I've got a better idea," meowed Firestar. "Why don't I come with you part of the way? I could take a patrol up to Fortress at the same time. Stay there, I'll fetch Greystripe and Sandstorm." He bounded off into the warrior's den without waiting for Ravenpaw to reply. When the clan leader had gone, Ravenpaw caught sight of Brambleclaw and gave him a friendly nod. "Hey, how are you?" he meowed. "How's the prey running?" "Fine, everything's fine." Brambleclaw was aware that his voice sounded shaky, and he wasn't surprised when Ravenpaw peered at him more closely. "You look like you've been chased all night by a horde of badgers," the loner meowed. "Is anything the matter?" "Nothing, really." Brambleclaw scuffled his paws on the ground. "I had a dream, that's all." Ravenpaw's eyes were sympathetic. "Do you want to tell me about it?" "It was nonsense, really," Brambleclaw murmured. His ears filled again with the sound of the saltwater waves crashing and bellowing against the cliffs, and he suddenly found himself spilling out everything to Ravenpaw. The vast expanse of the water, the salt taste of it when it filled his mouth, the gaping black jaws in the cliff that threatened to swallow him, and most alarmingly of all, the sinking sun in a pool of blooded fire. "The place can't be real," he finished. "I don't know why it's gotten me to think like this. It's not like I don't have anything else to think about," he added grimly. To his surprise, Ravenpaw did not leap in to agree that Brambleclaw had had a meaningless dream about a place that existed only in his troubled imagination. Instead, the black cat was silent for a long time, his eyes clouded with thought. "Saltwater cliffs," he murmured. Then, "The place is real," he meowed. "I've heard of it before, though I've never seen it for myself." "Real? What do you mean?" Brambleclaw stared at him, his fur standing on end. "Road cats come to the Two-Leg Farm sometimes, when they have travelled far and are in need of a place of shelter for the night, and have a spare mouse or two," Ravenpaw explained. "Cats who live towards the place where the sun sets. They have told Barley and me about a place where there is more water than you could possibly imagine, like a river that has only one bank, and it's too salty to drink. Every night it swallows the sun in a flash of fire, bleeding into the waves without a sound." Brambleclaw shivered. The loner's words brought his dream back far too vividly for comfort. "Yes, I saw the place where the sun drowns. And the cave with teeth?" "I can't tell you about that," Ravenpaw admitted. "But this dream must have been sent to you for a reason. Be patient, and perhaps StarClan will show you more." "StarClan?" Brambleclaw felt his belly flip over. How could you dream of a place you have never seen, unless StarClan willed it?" Ravenpaw pointed out. Brambleclaw had to admit the logic in what the loner said. "Say it was StarClan who sent me this dream, about the sun-drowned place," he began. "Do you think they could possibly be telling me to go there?" Ravenpaw's eyes widened in surprise. "Go there? Why?" "Well, I had another dream first," Brambleclaw explained, uncomfortably. I thought I met Bluestar in the forest. She told me about a new prophecy that there could be trouble in coming to the forest. She said that I'd been chosen. He said nothing about the cats from the other clans. Even though Ravenclaw lived outside the warrior code, he would not approve of meeting with the others in secret, as Brambleclaw had done. Why me? He finished in confusion. Why not Firestar? He would know what to do. The loner gazed at him solemnly for a long moment. There was a prophecy about Firestar once, too, he meowed at last. StarClan promised that fire would save the clan, though they didn't exactly say how. Firestar never understood it, never knew the prophecy was about him until Bluestar told him just before she died. Brambleclaw met his gaze and could find nothing to say. He had heard about the fire prophecy. Every clan cat had, as part of the stories told about their leader, but it had never occurred to him that Firestar might once have felt as confused as he felt now. There was a time when Firestar was a young warrior, just like you, Ravenclaw went on, as if he could read Brambleclaw's thoughts. He often wondered if he was making the right decisions. Oh, yeah, he's a hero now. He saved the forest. But to begin with, his task was as impossible as yours, whatever it might be. His prophecy has been fulfilled, he added. Maybe it's your time now. Remember that StarClan don't like to make things obvious. They send us prophecies, but they never tell us exactly what we should do. They expect us to show courage and loyalty to achieve what has to be done, just as Firestar did. Brambleclaw was puzzled by the reverence with which Ravenclaw, a loner who chose not to dwell in a clan, spoke of StarClan. Disconcertingly, the Black Cat murmured, "Just because I live outside the forest doesn't mean that I reject the warrior code. It is a noble path for cats to walk, and I would defend it as willingly as any warrior." He gave Brambleclaw a friendly nod as Firestar returned with Greystripe and Sandstorm. Brambleclaw murmured farewell and watched the four cats pad across the clearing and vanish into the gorse tunnel. If the dreams were true, both of them, then an enormous task lay in front of him. He had no idea how he could find the salt water, except that he would need to follow the setting sun, and he did not know how far away it was. Farther than any forest cat had ever gone before, that was for sure. Ravenclaw's words echoed in his ears. Maybe it's your time now. If the other three cats dreamed of the sun-drowned place too? What if he's right? Brambleclaw asked himself. What should I do next?